Hello everyone, this is Gary from Fantastic Fundas and this is lecture 1 of Polity. So in this lecture I'll give you a very brief background of how our constitution came and what is our constitution and the origin of so many things and the basic features of constitution. Those are primary things we'll be talking about, right? So we begin with this lecture. Now in this lecture, the first question that I want to ask all of you is that, okay, let me just put this question over here. What is constitution? Now according to few people it is the most important law of the land, and according to some other people, which is right in itself when we say that it is most important law of the land. In German it has been called Grundnorm. The word they have used over there is Grundnorm. Yeah, Grundnorm, the word they have used over there. So basically it's something because of which there is legal sanction to others. It is such a huge law. It is the most basic law which cannot be violated, right? It's the basic law, right? And to tell you about other word, it tell you about the basic laws and rules, or let's say it talks about the fundamental principles which govern the polity of the nation. How the state will work, what are the powers, when will the main people retire, for example the president, how long will be the tenure of the prime minister. So all these things are covered under the definition of the constitution, right? Now moreover, see, if we compare it to other laws, they enjoy legal sanction, right? But this constitution, not the other normal laws, right? For example, you have Indian Penal Code, you know this act, right? Now Indian Penal Code, which came in 1860, this is a normal legal sanction, right? It doesn't have what constitution has, which is called special legal sanction, right? Special legal sanction, which is enjoyed by constitution and not other things, right? Now it's basically, the constitution is also the supreme law of the land. This is supreme law, the most important law of the land. And if for any law, whether it's IPC or any other law, for any law to be the validity of any law, it depends on the constitution, whether it is within the framework of constitution. That means whatever the law is, it should not be violative of constitution, only then it can be valid, right? And constitution is not just this much. Constitution also talks about the relation between government and people. The relation between them is also by the constitution only, right? So to sum it up, the constitution is central to the administration of the country and to the existence and functioning of India as a political legal entity, right? I meant to say political legal entity. Now this political legal entity of India exists because we have this constitution, right? Now constitution, we'll talk about it, what kind of constitutions there can be. It can be written, unwritten. We'll talk about that a little later. Before that, I would like to talk to you about how our constitution came into being, the making of our constitution. Right now, one of the oldest constitutions of the world is British Constitution, though they don't have a written constitution. Similarly, New Zealand hasn't got a written constitution. Okay, let me just tell you quickly about that. There's something called written constitution, right? Written constitution. And okay, this symbol I'll be using throughout my lecture, and this is the symbol that I have made for myself, and you can also use it. It just simply means constitution, right? Actually, this has a figurative importance. This circle represents a constitution, and this can be amended. So I just made a symbol for myself. Otherwise, it has no such importance. Now let's talk about the other as unwritten constitution, right? Now written constitution and unwritten, the main difference is that we have the written text Now, when we say that it's unwritten, it doesn't mean that there is no constitution. It means the constitution is there, but it is not in the shape of the constitution, the way we have our constitution. We have our constitutional book. They don't have it. What do they have then? They have all the judgments, all the other laws, and some of those laws form the part of the basic structure, which are non-violable. In fact, they actually have a huge building in England, where they have kept all those laws one after other. Huge piles and piles of text is kept over there, which is called to put together the constitution, right? Anyway, we'll dwell on that a little later, the difference between written constitution and unwritten constitution. Before that, let's talk about how the constitution was made in India, and then we'll talk ahead if time permits us, right? Now, see our constitution, right? Now this constitution of ours came into force on 26 January 1950. We know, every one of us knows this. Now before this, right, this is like 1950. What was happening before this? There were two laws before this. One was Government of India Act. I will be talking about this in our history lecture also in detail, the Government of India Act. And then came the India Independence Act, and this was in 1947. Now, these articles were governing our country before these acts, before constitution came into being. And when our constitution came into being, these two were repealed under Article 395. They were deleted, right? And so on basically on 20 now it happened. So on 26 November 1949, that we enacted our constitution, and full constitution came into force on 26 January 1950. Some provisions came into force before that, but this was like a little introduction to the background. But to understand completely, we'll have to go to the period of Indian independence movement, and let's go. We will be starting our talk with Mahatma Gandhi, right? Now what happened, that it was in 1922 that the first Gandhiji, while explaining while explaining the meaning of Swaraj, he was talking about that we need to have our own constitution. But this is not really considered to be the first mention of need of having there's a mention of need of having constitution, but the idea is not given to him. That it is given to M.N. Roy, and we'll be talking about him just in a small while. And then after him in 1928, after Gandhiji, came M.L. Nehru, right? M.L. Nehru, Motilal Nehru. And now for the first time, 1928, what had happened, that Britishers had challenged India that Indians are good for nothing, and Indians took this thing in a very bad sense, and Indians said okay fine. In just few weeks, under Nehru, Motilal Nehru, a Nehru committee was formed, and which made the constitution, right? Now drafted it was basically called Nehru recommendations, right? Or Nehru committee recommendations. So this was how things were going on. And now our constitution came into full existence on 26 January. Now why this 26 January only? Why not 25 January or any date? Why not any random date? Because I am just coming to that. Then what happened? This was in 1928. Then came 1929. I'll just write it again for you. 1929, and in this 1929 session, this was a Purna Swaraj resolution. Purna, complete Swaraj resolution was passed by the Congress, and the complete independence, right? Now it was here that here it was decided that 26th January 1930 onwards, we will be celebrating it as our Independence Day. So because of this, we have 26th January over here with us, right? And this declaration of independence, this was basically a declaration of independence, and this talked about so many things like the atrocities, the financial losses happened to us, and that how we are a free nation, and that whatever the case may be, let us only determine our future. But the first idea that really came into being that came in 1934, right? Those was very minor backgrounds before this. Now in this 1934, the main person over here is M.N. Roy, right? Yeah, he was a communist. His name is Manbendranath Roy, and he was rather a pioneer of communist movement in India. And you can say he was a pioneer, and second thing that he was a radical democrat, right? A radical democrat. That's what his ideas were, right? Now this for the first time it was him who mentioned about the constituent assembly, the idea of constituent assembly. I'll just use the same symbol for it. This means constituent. I'll just write it once for you. Constituent assembly, right? So constituent assembly idea was given by him, and by the time 1935 came, this also became the main demand of Indian National Congress of that time, right? But what really changed after this was the next step that came over here. It was in 1940. Now there came an offer called August Offer by Britishers, right? And it was in this August Offer that it was for the first time recognized by Britishers that Indians had to Indians right to form their own constitution. And after this thing happened, then came the cabinet resolution, and that was in 1946, right? Cabinet it was basically by British cabinet, and that's called the cabinet mission and or cabinet resolution, whatever you want to call it. Now so basically election under this cabinet mission, elections are held for the constituent assembly, right? And now, right, so we have 1934 over here. And after 1934, for the first time, M.N. Roy Constituent Assembly was talked about, and then in 1935 it became the motto of the Indian National Congress, the main demand. And in 1940, Britishers recognized our right to make the constitution, and in 1946 came our right to make for the first time the law and cabinet mission on the basis of which we made our Constituent Assembly, right? Now the Constituent Assembly, if we're talking about that. Now the Constituent Assembly, its members now, because here the elections are being held now, who will be elected? Who are these members? Now these members were elected. First of all, it is right. They were elected, and they were elected by provincial assemblies. They were not directly elected. They were elected by provincial assemblies, right? Now these provincial assemblies had come into existence in 1935 only, right? Now and how did they vote? They vote on the basis of the single transferable vote. What do you mean by this? I'll just quickly try to tell you that. For single transferable vote is like there are 10 people standing, right? Suppose there are 3 people standing, 1, 2, 3, and each one of them must get at least 5 votes to get elected, right? This gets 2 votes, this gets 2 votes, and this guy also get, this guy just this guy get 3 votes, this 3, and this person gets only 2 votes, right? Now these are the first preference votes, that if I have to choose a person, my first preference this person and second preference this person. Now in the second round that will happen, this person will be eliminated, and his the people, whatever the second preference of the people is, that vote will be transferred, and then the majority will be elected, right? Whosoever gets the majority. And this process will keep on happening. Now this was on the basis of the single transferable vote, right? Now so elections were held, right? Now total membership of the Constituent Assembly at this time, it was 389, right? 389. This is the strength of the Constituent Assembly, strength. Now how did we come to this number, or how did Britishers come to this number of 389? Basically a ratio of 1:10 was taken. 1:10 where 1:10 lakhs rather. For every 1 million population, 1 seat was to be there, and for approximately 40 million population, 389 seats came up, right? And out of these 389, the division was there, right? There were 292 seats who were to be the representatives of the state representative, There were four princely states, right? Four princely states, these were to be there. And then there were apart from 292 and I mean no, not 4, right? I just mentioned it wrong. It shouldn't be 4, it should be okay, just let me correct it quickly. Okay, just let me put it again for you. So this was 1:10 lakh, and how the division was that 292 seats, these 292 were the state representatives. Then there were 4 seats. Now these 4 seats were from the chief commissioner provinces, right? They were chief commissioner provinces, which I'll be talking about in history lecture also. So there were states and chief commissioner provinces, and then there were 93 seats, and these were for basically the princely states, right? Those are British states, and these are princely states, and these are chief commissioner provinces. And which are these chief commissioner provinces? If you just want to know their names, they are okay, I'm just writing it here. Okay, one is Delhi, that's one. Number 2 is Ajmer. These are chief commissioner provinces, Ajmer. And number 3, Ajmer or Mewar. Ajmer Mewar, that's 1, and this is 2. And then number 3 that came over here is Kurg, right? And number 4, I'm writing it up here in the corner, and the number 4th state was Baluchistan, right? So this was how it was, right? Now when elections were done in this, certain things happened, and what were those things? We'll talk about those things now. Okay, so we'll talk about those things quickly. So elections were held, and when the results came out, Congress, obviously it was fighting election for the Constituent Assembly, who will make the constitution. For the Congress won 208 seats out of 389, and then there was Indian Muslim League, which won 73 seats, right? And if there was any seat left, that was won by some other people. So but what happened is, after when Congress won the majority, Muslim League said that we cannot do anything now, we cannot achieve anything, basically their communal agenda. So what happens here? Muslim League refuses to cooperate. They say no, we will not cooperate with you. So they basically separate themselves from the Congress, and over here the political situation is very bad, and then there are riots in India happening. So Muslim League, basically they said we want different Constituent Assembly for Muslims. This is a Hindu dominated, and they cannot take care of Muslims, and there were such communal views, right? Why cannot a Hindu take care of Muslim, or a Muslim cannot take care of Hindus? Each one can take care of each other. After all, everyone is a human first, and a Hindu or a Sikh or a Muslim much later, right? Now, so this was how it was. So things were like going very tense because of all this happening over here. So what happens over here, that now Mountbatten comes to India, right? And 3rd June is the date. This is 3rd June 1947. Now on this date, what happens, that he announces that he will be scrapping the cabinet mission is scrapped by this person, right? Here it is Mountbatten. Okay, so he does that, and this later culminates into Indian Independence Act, and we have separate nations over here. So Indian Independence Act was basically that was passed on just a month later, on 8 July 1947. And then, and of course we know that in August we became free. Now the Cabinet Assembly, right, which had elected earlier this undivided India's Constituent Assembly, that had earlier met, right, and that met just a few days after Mountbatten came, and that was on 9th June 1947. This was the date that when Cabinet Assembly, where obviously Muslim League did not participate. Muslim League, they said we did not cooperate with the Congress, right? So it reassembled after the division, right? Right at the time of the division, on 14th of August 1947 in the Constituent Assembly, and this became a successor to Britishers, right? Their British authority and British everything, right? Now, what happened that separate Constituent Assembly was set up for Pakistan, and that was on 3rd June only, and Indian and those people who went to Pakistan, they ceased to be member of Indian cabinet, right? So what happened that they go to the Pakistan and part in their cabinet, and thus Indian Constituent Assembly is also reduced in size, and it is reduced in size from 389 to 299 members now, because so many these people Muslims did leave India at that time, right? And so this is how it goes, and this finally these 299 members meet on 31 December 1947, and so things, right? So few things are like this. After them, it's 1947 over here, right? So okay, they all these people, and finally these people out of these 299, on the final day when the constitution was actually signed, and that was on 26 November 1949, on this day out of 299, 284 were present over there who did sign it, right? Now when this is signature, right? Now constitution has been formed and signature have been appended, and how the constitution is formed, we will talk about that. There are long constitutional debates on that will be a little beyond the scope of polity discussion, so I'm not doing that right now. But then there are beautiful lecture series called Samvidhan. You can see that series also, that how constitution was formed, though I will be talking about that in a little detail and not much detail. So when the Constituent Assembly met, the first thing they did was passing of objective resolution, right? And in this objective resolution, basically it defined the basic objectives, objectives of the Constituent Assembly, the aims for which they would be working, right? And who was the main person who helped in passing this? It was Jawaharlal Nehru. He's the person who moved it, and this was in 1946, not 47, right? Now this was adopted by the Constituent Assembly in 1947 only, right? Now this basically talked about that how our basics, all those things which you find in preamble: equality, democracy, sovereignty, right, and our liberty, and all those things, and guarantees of social, economic, political justice, and equality of status, opportunity, and equality before law, and freedom of expression, belief, faith, worship, vocation, association, residence, action, and all these things, right? These are part of objective resolution. Aapka aim kya hai? What do you want to achieve ultimately, right? And then ultimately this is the objective resolution was moved, and this resolution was, as I said, they met in December, just a moment before, as I said it, and then after meeting in December, this resolution was moved, and on 14 August 1947 in Constituent Hall, these people took the oath, right? So this was how the Constituent Assembly came into being, right? And they appended their their signatures on it, and as I just said that. Now on this day, right, that is 26 January 1950, what happens? Very important thing. Assembly, this Constituent Assembly ceases to exist. It is no more, right? It's over. And what comes follows this was the Provisional Parliament of India, right? Provisional Parliament, because it will take some time to conduct the elections also, and finally it is in 1952 that elections are held in India. And if you read Ramachandra Guha's book India After Gandhi, so there's a beautiful explanation, presentation of how elections were held in India at that time, right? So it took total of 2 years or 11 months and 21117, right? So 2 year 11 months and 17 days, right? 21117. So and to frame the constitution, huge money was spent, and what came out at that time was 22 parts. In 22 part constitution came with 395 articles and 8 schedules, right? Now what are these 22 parts? that whole constitution, you cannot say there are different parts. Like for example, there's a part talking about emergency, they're talking part talking about amendment of the constitution. So there are different parts, right? The whole, there many articles have been clubbed into it. And what are articles? Articles are the very law. These are article 368, 356, you might have heard these articles earlier somewhere. Article 3 was there, article 395. Article is generally, this word is used with the basic law only, and otherwise normally a section word is used, because that's just one section of it. And here it is article, which is complete in itself. So that is the probable difference between article and a section. Normally I haven't seen, like I have talked to a lot of people, not many, I haven't found an answer to that. And then there is there are 8 schedules also, which had details which were not as important as the section itself was. For example, we have schedule 7, it has so many lists in it, and now the law says that parliament has the power and state has the power to make laws on these subjects. Now adding these subjects in the main part of body of the constitution would have made it cumbersome. So just to make it clean and tidy, these were added as a different part of the whole thing, right? So this is how our constitution came into being, and the making of our constitution, the political history of making of our constitution, right? So this is it, and I'll just request you to subscribe to our channel if you like our videos. And in next lecture after this, I will be covering the main people, the main contributors of our to the constitution, right? And all the female contribution, that is very important for our paper. And I'll also be talking about the all the committees. So that is all, and thank you for watching.